What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, welcome to our little corner of the internet. Today we're going to be watching a video titled Why Americans Talk to Complete Strangers. Why? This is something that it might be a culture shock to Europeans going to America. I've seen that Americans start a lot of small talk. I feel like I'm a small talk person. Like, if I'm stuck in an elevator with someone, I will say something if I'm not in Finland. Like, it depends on the country. I live in Spain, so here it's normal to be like, oh, it's really hot out today, and then the other person is like, yeah, I know, blah, blah, blah. In Finland, you don't do small talk, not at all. You don't even say hi to a person walking past you because that's weird. In Spain, you kind of do, but I feel like in America, maybe it's even more than here. So without further ado, let's see what this video is about.
You know, one of the strangest things I discovered after moving to America wasn't anything that you see in the news. It wasn't the things people argue about online, and it wasn't even the fact that you can buy a lawnmower, a birthday cake, and a six-pack all in the same store. It was standing in line.
What?
Which sounds ridiculous, of all the cultural differences between Australia and the US. Surely a queue isn't one of them. But standing in line was where I first realised Australians and Americans often read the same situation very differently.
You better take cover.
In Australia, if you're standing in line at the supermarket and a stranger is next to you, there's a pretty good chance absolutely nothing will happen. You stand there, they stand there. You both stare vaguely at the chewing gum on.
Okay, yeah, no, not at a grocery line though. We don't speak to each other. Like, if someone passes me by once on the street when I'm walking my dog, nothing. Second time, nothing. Third time, I'll be like, good morning, you know?
Display. Maybe you glance at the magazine rack. Oh, look, Harry and Megs are on the front cover again. Maybe you pretend to be fascinated by the price of Duracell batteries. No one says anything. And nobody thinks it's weird either. In fact, if someone suddenly turned to you and said, "G'day, mate, how's your day going?" there would be a small moment of panic. You'd immediately start running through possibilities.
Yeah, I'd be like, who are you? Do I know you? Oh my God, do I know him? And then I'd be like, are you selling something like from the store? What is going on?
I know this guy. I mean, have we met before? Did I accidentally make eye contact for too long? Australians generally see silence as respectful. We're giving each other space. It's our way of saying, "G'day, mate. I see you. Carry on." That's the unspoken agreement. You know, we're both here. We're both just waiting to pay and leave. And that's what I grew up with. But then I moved to America, and more specifically, I moved to Tennessee. And when I first moved here, I'd stand in line and...
Okay, Tennessee sounds like a very, very small talk place though.
Somebody would start talking every single time. You know, at first I thought maybe it's a coincidence. Then I thought, well, maybe I looked like I was just very approachable. You know, kind of like a poor man's version of Guy Fieri or Larry Bird. But then after the 500th conversation, I realised this was simply normal. An American can start a conversation with absolutely anyone. The person in front of them, the person behind them, the cashier, the security guard, the dog tied up outside. No one's safe. And at first, I really couldn't work it out. But why was everybody...
What do you say though? Like, hi, how's your day going? Like, what are you... Like, is that like just like... I mean, is that just a greeting and then you just go, I'm well, thanks. And that's it? Or do you like go, oh no, I just went to the store today to buy blah, blah, blah. And then it starts into a bigger conversation, or what? Like, what does it mean? Like, how am I supposed to respond? Is it just like, it's going good, thank you, how's yours? Good, okay, bye. Or is it like we're meant to conversate?
Talking to strangers. But over time, I've realised something pretty important. They're not making conversation for a reason. The conversation was the reason. Australians often show consideration by leaving people alone. Americans often show consideration by including people. It's the same goal, but it's a different method. And I think that's where some of the misunderstandings tend to come from. Because Americans can sometimes see Aussies as a little bit cold. And Australians can sometimes see Americans as a tad overwhelming. But we're both trying to be friendly. We're just operating by completely different social rules. One comment on the channel recently really summed it up perfectly. I had an American viewer, and they said that when they see somebody standing quietly by themselves, they almost feel drawn to them. Their instinct is to go over and make conversation, help them feel included, make them feel comfortable. Now, to an Aussie, that same person looks perfectly comfortable already. We're thinking, like, why would you want to go and interrupt them? But the American is thinking, why would you leave them standing there by themselves?
That's sweet, though.
Neither side is wrong. They're just interpreting the same situation in different ways. And living here in the States, you see it everywhere. Checkout lines, sporting events, waiting for the bus, even at the doctor's office. I once had somebody strike up a conversation while I was waiting for a prescription at Walgreens. Now, I've had conversations pumping gas, conversations standing in line to pick up a pizza. And at this point, if somebody doesn't start to talk to me in public, I honestly start wondering if I forgot to shower. The South takes this to an entirely different level. I've lived in Tennessee for about 8 years now. Southern friendly.
Here, like, I don't know, it depends, because if you go, like, up to someone and you're like, how's your day going? They might be like, can you leave me alone? So I'm usually not the instigator. There's a word for that. But, like, I'm not the first one to talk.
This is almost a superpower. You can walk into a store and leave knowing the life story of 3 strangers. People ask where you're from, how long you've been here, what brought you to town. And somehow none of it feels strange because they're genuinely interested. I think that's the part that a lot of visitors here often miss out on. Because in many countries, asking personal questions can sometimes feel like an interrogation. But in America, it's usually an invitation. They're saying, tell me about yourself, not justify yourself. And those are very different things. One question that surprised me was how often I'm asked, what do you do for work? Now, depending upon where you're from, that can feel like somebody is trying to work out where you fit into social hierarchy. But I'm learning that Americans generally don't mean it that way. They're looking for a conversation starter, a connection point, something to build on. Again, it's the same words, but it's a different meaning. The more I've lived here, the more...
I can't believe that nowadays when someone asks me, what do you do? I'm like, I'm a YouTuber. Okay, but I always say I can't go. I just go, I do, like YouTube and videos and stuff like that. Because here, if you say like, I'm a YouTuber, like, yeah, it's my dream job. They're like, like that's nothing to brag about. You can't brag about stuff, or not. I wouldn't say braggingly, no, but it's like, because I love this. Like, this is my dream. It has to be my dream job forever. But it's so weird that I get to say that. But yeah, I think that would be different in like America, or I've heard that in Americans are more like you go type of people than like type of people.
I've started to see a pattern. Americans seem incredibly good at making interactions really easy. It could be a quick smile or a compliment, a joke, a random conversation, maybe a little encouragement. Someone shared with me a story recently that really hit home. A woman in Arkansas, she told me there'd been a major accident on the interstate. Traffic was stopped for hours, and people got out of their cars. They started talking to strangers, walked around, shared stories. It was almost like a community barbecue event. And by the time the road reopened, Some people had actually become so distracted chatting, they couldn't remember where they parked their cars. Yeah, to an Aussie, that's probably one of the most American stories I think I've heard.
I could never remember where I parked my car.
I love it. But it is a way of letting people know that they're welcome. And once I started seeing it that way, a lot of those random conversations that you think are a little bit strange really start to make a lot more sense. An American friend once told me that if we're talking, we know we're okay. And I think there's a fair bit of truth in that. Conversation creates certainty. It tells people that they're welcome, that everything's fine. No one's being left out. Australians, we can be almost the opposite at times. If we're standing quietly together, we know we're okay. We don't tend to feel the need to fill in every gap. In fact, filling every gap can sometimes create awkwardness where none existed before. And that's one of those cultural differences that's hard to explain until you've actually lived it. Because neither approach is better. They're just different. And there's one thing people often get wrong about Australians. We're friendly, but we're often just that little bit more reserved than what people think. Americans often communicate comfort through...
I feel like that's the same with like Finnish people. They're friendly, but very, very, very reserved. Like reserved to the point of like if you're waiting for the bus at the bus station, you have to have at least 2 meters between the person next to you. If someone's sitting at the bus stop, you're not going to sit next to them. That's weird. You have to stand. Like, even if it's a long seat, you know?
Openness. And the funny thing is that after living here for years now, I've started changing. I catch myself doing it now. I'll be standing somewhere and suddenly I'm the one that's talking to a stranger. Sometimes I don't even realize that it's happened. But over time, I've become one of them. The real test came when I visited Australia again. As I was standing in line somewhere and I realized that nobody was talking. Nobody. The silence was just incredible. There was a whole queue of people standing there quietly. And for the first time, probably in my life, it felt really strange. I caught myself thinking, someone should probably say something. And that's when I knew that America had gotten to me. Because the truth is, one of the things I've come to admire most about Americans is how willing they are to engage with people.
That's
there's
nice,
an
though.
optimism underneath
I
it.
like that.
A belief that the stranger next to you might be interesting, might be worth talking to, could even become a friend. And one comment on the channel recently said, Americans are basically like golden retrievers. Honestly, that's probably not the worst description that I've ever heard. Because I think Americans tend to approach the world assuming people are worth talking to.
Aww,
Whereas
that's
Australians
sweet.
at times approach the world assuming people probably want to be left alone. And both approaches have strengths, but I think they also both have weaknesses too. So if you are coming to America for a trip or to work or to live here, understanding this difference will save you a lot of confusion to start with. That person talking to you in line at Publix isn't trying to invade your privacy. The cashier at Walmart asking questions isn't being nosy. Most of the time, they're simply doing what Americans seem to do, making contact, creating a connection, and trying to make the world feel that little bit less anonymous. I think once you understand that, something interesting starts to happen. Is what initially feels exhausting actually starts to feel warm. And what initially feels strange, it feels normal. And then before long, you're standing in line at the supermarket discussing barbecue recipes with a complete stranger, while the Australians back home wonder what on earth happened to you. Probably the moment then that you realise you've been in America for a while. Hooroo, mateys.
You better take cover.
That was a good video. I actually really enjoy his video style and his speech, and the video itself. That was good. I think that I really do like that fact that people, do small talk and all of that. I feel like that gives a communal feeling, and I like having community, you know? I don't know. I don't really have that here. I don't really know anyone. I don't really talk to anyone, you know? But maybe there's like a few stores down here where I see the people every day because I take my dog out and I'm like, hi. But that's it, you know? And I don't know, I think that's beautiful, and you never know who you might find. So, but guys, thank you so much for joining me for this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if this is true. Is this only in the Tennessee area, or is this like a whole America thing? And yeah, thank you for joining. Please like, subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you guys in the next video. I don't know what this was. Just a little finger bye.